Good morning. Good morning. I think it's a little after 9, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for coming out this morning and spending some time to hear from each of the candidates. Before we get started, I just want to sort of tell you how we got to where we're at today and things. We're working with a group called the Registry for College and University Presidents. And this is a group that places educational leaders in key administrative positions and their interim positions. So each of the candidates that you're going to hear from today are here for an interim position. It will not be a candidate for the permanent post. They'll be here as long as we need them here. So it could be, I don't know that anybody has a timeline on that, but it could be 6 months, it could be a year. And I think they're accustomed to staying as long as it's needed. So that's how we got to where we're at today. There'll be 3 candidates that you'll be hearing from today. And what the scenario that we've asked them to do is to talk for 10 or 15 minutes, and then from there we'll open it up to questions, and you can ask questions on any of the topics, anything that you want to talk about. So we have with us this morning, our first candidate will be Dr. Connie Allen. Dr. Allen is the Provost and VPAA at St. Augustine's University. I mispronounced it earlier and I was correcting things. And she is currently there as the Provost. Let me tell you about her academic background. She earned her undergraduate degree in chemistry and biology at the University of Hartford, a master's in physical chemistry from the University of Maryland College Park, and a PhD in physical chemistry from the University of Maryland in Baltimore County. So we're really pleased to have Dr. Allen. She had a long flight, I believe, yesterday. I don't know, the airplane gods really punished her. She had to go through Dallas and then Atlanta to get here. Go figure. So anyways, Dr. Allen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm actually very glad to be here. What I thought I would do is when they asked that I tell a little bit about myself, I thought I would actually give you a sense of my educational philosophy and my leadership philosophy. So as most educators, you usually do it either in a PowerPoint or a Prezi or something like that. And I actually decided that I did want you to kind of see as well as hear what I have to say. Yeah? Is that better? Okay. So I want to start with discussing my educational philosophy. Then I want you to take a look at my leadership style and how I work with faculty, staff, and students. So my educational philosophy is presented in the form of what I call I believe statements. I believe an educator's role is to be purposeful about engagement for the sake of investing in our global society, helping students to speak articulately, write and argue persuasively, and demonstrate the unique set of competencies and skills embraced by the college is paramount to being a successful educator. I believe an educator is a catalyst of change. Students become change agents when an educator is intentional about providing skills and experiences that allow them to evolve from substrate to catalyst, scientist to me. I believe an educator has a responsibility to prepare students who will play an important role in civic engagement while embracing social justice and economic self-sufficiency in a dynamically changing world. An educator should support the tenets necessary to create a caring community. The little cartoon that you see right there, I don't know if you can see it, but it says how Einstein found E equals mc squared. And the little guy who's speaking, he says, nice theory, but can you make it tweetable? So, I believe an educator is responsible for preparing students to become lifelong learners by modeling the teaching and learning process. I believe educators achieve this by ensuring that they're current in their fields. This includes the role of technology in our rapidly changing world. I believe an educator is responsible for developing leaders. Developing leaders should be afforded opportunities to engage in entrepreneurial prospects, research activities, and/or creative endeavors. I believe an educator plays a significant role supporting curiosity, innovation, and creativity. And then, this is what I believe about all educators that work for an institution. As ambassadors of their institution, I believe an educator should fully embrace the mission and vision of their school. Now, having said that, it was important for me to at least share that last statement because based on my educational philosophy, you can see that it aligns very well with your mission statement. Your mission statement that addresses service, research, and educational activities. So now I want to move on to my leadership philosophy and my style in terms of my core values. My core values that I have been identified are truth, integrity, and transformation. And my belief system that's based on my core values allow me to have a level of stability that navigates what I call choppy waters, because I do this in an authentic way by living close by and living by my core values. And it provides me my reward, because as long as I'm being authentic, as long as I'm living my core values, I can provide my reward, I can find my reward, and I can actually forward that in terms of advancing the goals of the institution. And I can share that. That's built on a foundation of family and faith that allows me to live my core values. So you may ask, what is it that a provost is expected to do, even on an interim basis? Well, a provost is expected to create a shared vision. And I believe this vision is created through inspiration, courage, wisdom, passion, empowerment, advocacy, and serving as a catalyst for change. And then I think a provost is also responsible for developing the college. And this is done through collaborations, teams, coalitions, purposeful engagement, accountability, and creating and celebrating a culture of transformation that's necessary to lead an institution. And in addition, a provost is responsible for developing the individual. A provost is responsible for ensuring that that faculty or that staff member has an opportunity to be in the presence of that provost to actually share with the provost their ideas. So a provost is responsible for accessibility, they're responsible for opportunity, they're responsible for encouragement, and they're responsible for acknowledging all the other key aspects of leading others. So you might ask, why should anyone want to embrace my philosophy? Why would anybody want me to lead them? Well, I would say, because I have a creative mind, I have a proven record of success, I have a vision, I have energy, I have drive, I have demonstrations of purposeful engagement with sharing my vision, living my core values, truth, integrity, and transformation. I have been engaged in student-centered curricular reform. I know what it means to engage in a climate of fiscal conservatism. I have moved institutions from cultures of assessment to cultures of empowerment, as well as making sure that we're sharing that vision. And I have transformed an institution while engaging the faculty to develop what we call our signature students. So how? How have I done this? Well, it has taken the garnering of stakeholder support, including the faculty, students, the president, and the board of trustees. It has actually involved strategic planning, implementation, assessment, evaluation, effective communication, and messaging. This philosophy continues to be demonstrated through acknowledging and providing a venue for scholarship, for cross-fertilization, for research, for reward, and globalization. So, where do we start? As always, you start by looking within. And when you look within, the first place you really want to begin is by listening. You make no judgments without listening. So that's where I would start. I also think it's important that you understand that I believe that a provost, being the chief academic officer, is also the chief advocate for the faculty. I believe that it's important to stay true to your core values. I believe it's important to assess your strengths and weaknesses, and to understand the impact of externals like enrollment numbers and resources, to understand the role of graduation rates and persistent rates and retention rates, and identify those resources. I also think it's important that we know that we're and you see right here, this is Einstein, and chances are Einstein would have not been a really good waitress. So it's really important that we have the right people developing the right kind of scholarship. And as you know, all of us are here for student learning, okay, to provide student learning opportunities, both inside the classroom and outside the classroom. And inside the classroom, in terms of making sure that our students are completing what I would call a completion agenda, the advising component is huge. And outside the classroom, to be able to afford students opportunities like research, internships, all of those kinds of things actually support these outside the classroom experiences. And then the issue is that when we talk about a program, an educational program, it should really be cumulative, meaning that the skills should be transferable, transportable, and transparent. Meaning that students should be able to build on skills that they may have from a 2-year institution to what takes place in a 4-year institution, which to what may take place in a master's level program, where those skills are identified and you can actually build on those. And the other thing is, it's so important for a provost to be able to tell your stories. And part of telling your stories means not only does the provost tell your stories, but the faculty member involved in the story needs to be able to tell that story. The student that's involved in the story needs to be able to tell that story. The president needs to be able to tell that story. The board members need to tell that story. And all of the community that's involved should be able to tell that story. That's where the power of the provost position comes in making sure that there's many voices telling that story. And I'll turn it over to questions.
As we ask questions and things, if you would identify yourself and just, faculty member or staff member, just so Dr. Allen have an idea of who you are. And one other thing I wanted to mention too is that all of the, and I think everybody's got an email on this about the CVs of each of the candidates are on the public drive. So if you haven't had a chance to look at those, they're available there for you to take a look at their academic credentials and their professional experience. So, questions?
I'm Bill Wilkes, economics. Do you believe that the provost should spend time walking around the campus and engaging with the students and the faculty?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, you're not just going to stay in your office.
I think engagement is absolutely important. On the last slide, you see where I mentioned telling your stories. I can't tell your stories if I don't know your stories. And I won't know your stories until you're able to tell me your stories. So absolutely.
Thank you.
Dell O'Neill, or librarian. You said you're currently provost?
I am.
How will you be doing both of those? Are you going to be resigning that other position?
I will.
Oh, okay. Just wanted to clarify that.
One of the things that I did when I took this position at St. Augustine's University, I promised the president at that time 3 to 5 years. I'm in my 4th year, so it's actually time for me to look for other opportunities. So this gives me this opportunity. Yes.
Kevin Dupre, English. I like that you're an advocate of faculty and see the provost in that role. So the first part of my question is, and I have your CV here, but how long were you a faculty member? Were you a tenure track faculty member? Did you go through those ranks and you know what that's like to teach?
I was not a tenure track faculty member, but at Yale I taught for 4 years. I was voted one of the favorite faculty members. From Yale I went into administration. Some folks call it the dark side. But in moving into administration at Mount Holyoke as an academic dean, the reason why I took the position is because they gave me the carrot. And it's a carrot for me that I could teach. So that gives you a sense of my background and the fact that I've actually come through that ilk.
Mark Durham, psychology. What's your feeling, what are your feelings about traditional learning as compared to distant learning?
In terms of learning strategies, I think that, I know that this is an institution that does quite a lot of distance learning, and I think that's fine. I think that there are certain areas that lend themselves to distance learning more so than others. But I think that we have to realize that we have a rapidly changing world. And oftentimes for us to be competitive and for those skills to be transferable, distance learning is necessary. Did that answer your question?
Well, do you think it's proper for a student to, first time they've been on campus is the day they graduate?
Is it proper for a student to,
First time, do you think it's proper for the first time for a student to be on campus is the day they graduate?
now, wow. I will share with you what I think in terms of the best distance learning models. There are distance learning models where the student actually has to come in and register. There are distance learning models where the student has to come in and go through an orientation in each of the classes that they're engaged in. And then the students actually have to come back, usually at some point in time, definitely before they graduate, but usually even in terms of like a final exam or to connect with that faculty member, especially if they're being mentored by that faculty member. So one time on campus, I don't think is sufficient.
Okay, I agree.
I actually have another question. How might you work to support faculty morale, and maybe in general, and then and maybe to work to improve faculty morale under a previous administration, provost, where that morale had suffered tremendously. So, any experiences in sort of helping a group come back from trauma?
When I accepted the position at St. Augustine's University, the faculty had actually gone through what I would consider trauma, in that they were very much engaged in the reaccreditation process. And for many of the faculty, this was their first time going through that. And it was a process where they weren't engaged in it all along the way. So there was a very serious situation with morale when I came onto the campus. And there were even some issues related to accreditation that we had to address. So one of the first things that I did was I encouraged the president to allow us to bring in some folks to look at leadership training, meaning for our department chairs and our deans and our faculty, to understand their role in the institution so that they would feel empowered to make decisions, because in the past they were not. So it took those kinds of early conversations, early messaging, that helped us kind of change to sway the morale. In addition to that, it took basically connecting with the faculty on a very regular basis. So I actually ended up meeting with the faculty almost every Friday afternoon. Again, we were addressing an issue that was related to accreditation, but it gave us an opportunity to be in it together, and that was important. Any other? Yes.
Dr. Allen, my name is Walter Merritt, Department of Math, Computer Science, and Natural Sciences. And I would like to piggyback on Dr. Dupree's question. I don't think we'll have much of an issue with accreditation. I think we're going to flying colors with our class number and with our illustrious folks who are, I anticipate that's going to happen if we're ready for the center of that cycle. We're going to be ready for the center of that cycle soon.
So your fifth year review.
Yeah, I think, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, I won't take that as a discount call. The morale part of it was as a result of the last programs. It was the lack of it. And how would you address that? Because you're here as an invitation, in part because of what the last provost imposed upon
I think that on one of the slides, it says, where do we start? And the place that we start is listening, okay, and making sure that, that you're accessible. And more importantly, it is important for the provost not to just have an open door policy, but to go to you. So that's where I would start.
There is an element of hurt among us and pain. Again, I can't speak for everybody, but I can speak for the people who I've entrusted my thoughts, and they've entrusted me with theirs. How do you begin to reconcile people? Listening is one, but how do you listen when
Well, before you can develop an action plan per se, you really have to understand what the issues are. So that listening part cannot be underestimated. So, I mean, that's absolutely where I would start. And where we would move, it depends on what I found out as a part of this sort of listening process. Does that make sense?
have you dealt with faculty that have experienced pain?
I have. And for those faculty, there really was a grieving process. Believe it or not, there was a grieving process. But there also was the presentation of hope. And that hope came, again, from them believing that they could live what their core beliefs were, why they were actually at the institution, supporting those beliefs.
Remind me where St. Augustine is.
Raleigh, North Carolina.
That's where I thought. I lived in North Carolina for 25 years, and I lived in Raleigh,
Oh.
Glenwood Avenue.
And we're right around the corner from Glenwood Avenue.
That's right, that's right. Then Angus Barnes,
I have.
can't afford it too often.
Yeah, but I have. Any other questions?
I'm a staff member, Institutional Research and Assessment. And I have two questions for you. One is, coming into an organization as a new person, as a new leader, what are the first three things that you're looking for?
First three things that I'm looking for in terms of the organization. Yeah, I'm looking to hear the stories. Okay, I'm looking to hear what the issues are. Okay, and then I'm also looking to see whether or not folks are willing to roll up their sleeves and be part of the solution. So I'm looking for that also, and I'm looking to be as, how shall I say it, as transparent, and that word is used, is overused, but as transparent and as involving and inclusive as possible. And I actually believe that's the kind of thing that really requires documentation, so that the process is actually documented.
My second question is, like it happens in every organization, how do you approach, as a leader, those instances in which the facts may not support a particular directive or initiative, that kind of thing? How do you try to strive a balance between the two?
And it depends on what you mean by that. When you say the facts don't support a specific directive.
Sometimes facts,
Okay.
sometimes directives come from the top, obviously.
Okay. You heard me say that the provost is the chief advocate for the faculty on campus. And he or she is. She absolutely is. So that when she sits around the table with that executive management cabinet, she has to represent those views. Whether or not that's the final decision, that's the role that she or he has to play. So, I mean, that's what I see my role is.
So facts matter to you a lot.
Well, if they matter, yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's a lot easier to build on something true than build on something false.
Thank you.
And when I say easy, I said easier. Doesn't mean it's easy, but easier.
I assume you are aware that this is a unique college, the model, 2-year senior level. We're constrained. We can't grow down, nor can we grow up in terms of getting into a master's program at this point in time. Would you see your role as an interim to try to help the president resolve that problem and get us so we can teach master's programs?
That I can't answer, because I'm hearing from you that there's an awful lot of hurt. And I don't believe that we can move onward and upward until we kind of deal with that hurt. And I have no sense of how long that might happen. You know, ideally you want to be doing things aligned with that, but it's obvious to me that you have to deal with it. Any other questions? Well, thank you for your time.
Let me just mention one other thing. And I don't know if this has been sent out to everyone, but I think the president and the deans are seeking any kind of comments. So I would encourage you, I think they want those in by Monday of next week. So if you have comments about any of the candidates, this is your opportunity to weigh in. So either send those, I think, communicate with your dean, or I think you can communicate directly with the president if you desire to do that. So also, Curtis is posting this. We're going to hopefully have this up on the website. So for your colleagues that were not able to attend, please make sure that they're aware that that's going to be posted. We'll try to send out a reminder about that as well. So we will have the next candidate in here at 10 o'clock, so I encourage you to come back at that time, and we'll start promptly at 10. Thank you.